Live right here on this Football Friday on the early line for the next half hour. It's all picks and breakdowns to set the stage for the Sunday slate in the second weekend of this NFL season. It is our pick six. He is Joe Raineri. I am Ben Stevens. A reminder, if this is your first time tuning into a Football Friday this season, this year, or any year around the early line on the SportsGrid network. Our pick six are six bets in a creative way that we like for Sunday. It is our favorite as we look at everything. Anytime touchdown scorer of the weekend. A Moneyline underdog that we think can strike the outright upset. Our favorite under of the weekend. An alternate line, whether it be a spread, total, player prop. We want to give you some plus money and a sprinkle. Our favorite yardage prop of the weekend. And then Joe and I combine forces for a two-leg 6-point teaser. I effed us last week, Raineri. I really screwed the pooch. I took the Bengals down to a 2.5-point favorite against the Patriots, and we know how that turned out. So as we get going here for the pick six, in these next 25 minutes or so, you begin, my friend. Your favorite anytime touchdown scorer this weekend is who and in what game?
I am going to head to Lambeau Field, and I am going to look at Jonathan Taylor, who knows a little something about the state of Wisconsin, doesn't he, Ben? In fact, he has spoken a number of times about how he really wants to do a Lambeau leap in his return to the state of Wisconsin. Former Badger has been looking forward to this game. And judging the way the Packers played defense last week against Philadelphia against the run, in which Saquon Barkley had a field day and they allowed 3 rushing touchdowns, I do think that the Colts are going to have plenty of opportunities and plenty of possessions there to have the ball and to make Jonathan Taylor get that Lambeau leap after all. So it's JT for me into the end zone for a touchdown.
He does know the state of Wisconsin. A big Saturday in Wisconsin as well. That's in Madison as fourth-ranked Alabama comes to town to take on the Badgers. So JT hoping for a very successful weekend back in the state where he played college football, but not for the in-state team being the Packers. It's funny you picked Jonathan Taylor. I looked at the same game, but just to the guy alongside JT in Indy's backfield. That's Anthony Richardson, plus 145 to find Pater, scored last week in the opener for Indianapolis against the Texans. He's a battering ram at 6'4", 6'5", 255 when he needs to be around the goal line. Of course, they want to protect him as injuries ended his season early on during his first year last year. But, Joe, he's played only 5 games in his NFL career. 4 last year, completed 2. 1 this year, completed the game, which is a good sign against the Texans. 5 career games, 5 rushing touchdowns for Anthony Richardson. I do believe he finds Pater at a plus 145 number against Green Bay on Sunday. But just because we both believe that the Colts will find Pater, one of the 2 guys at least in the backfield, maybe even both, does that mean, Joe, that Indy cakewalks to a victory over Malik Willis and Green Bay?
No, it doesn't, which is why Green Bay is going to be my Moneyline underdog here, Ben, given the fact that, listen, as much as we want to pat the Colts on the back, it was like an 80-yard bomb by Richardson. It was like a blocked punt. The offense was sporadic. Jonathan Taylor only had, 3 yards, a rush, I think is what he averaged. Now, granted, there is a big drop between Jordan Love and Malik Willis, but LaFleur, I believe, as a underdog, has been one of the most profitable coaches to back here. In Lambeau, and you want to give them a field goal, I don't think they're going to need it. I do think that they will figure out a way somehow to win this game, and the Colts and the young Richardson will have some issues there in that environment.
So, Joe, it just feels like a game that Green Bay is going to win somehow, some way. That's how I look at it in a picks pool with confidence points. I'm not all that confident, but I did pick the upset. I do like the look as a money line dog. The Packers did not cover last week as that underdog in Sao Paulo against the Eagles, 2.5-point spread. The Eagles winning that game by 5. But last year as an underdog, when not much was expected of the young Packers roster and the unproven Jordan Love, they were 8-4 against the spread. 6 of those 8 covers, an outright victory. I have a lot of doubts about Malik Willis. What an interesting story Willis is, right? Out of Liberty, drafted in the 2022 NFL draft in the 3rd round by Tennessee. But during that draft process and cycle, there was a time where Willis was thought of as the number 1 overall pick, or at least the first quarterback off the board. That was Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh. He's now the backup in Philadelphia. There was only 1 quarterback taken in the opening round for the first time since 2013. All to say, maybe the evaluators were right about Willis, who made 3 starts in his rookie year for Tennessee back in 2022. He has not thrown a touchdown pass in his NFL career, but does have 3 interceptions. A heavy dose of Josh Jacobs and a Packers defense that is going to have to be good if Green Bay is going to win outright. Now, it's not quite the plus 132 price of Green Bay. How about plus 102 for my Moneyline underdog? It's the Rams in Arizona on Sunday. 2 straight road games for LA to start off. Never great. A lot of injury concern along the offensive line, trying to keep the veteran Matthew Stafford upright, which is also a concern. I'm not sure if we're going to see Rob Havenstein. I'm not sure if we're going to see Joe Noteboom, the 2 guys that anchor either side at the tackle spot. Jonah Jackson, the only presumptive starter for LA that has even practiced in full this week for the Rams up front. But give me Sean McVay over Jonathan Gannon each and every day. Give me Sean McVay's ability to scheme this up, knowing the injury concerns for LA with a week of preparation. Joe, this is the first time the Cardinals will be booked as a favorite since 2022. And in that season, only a favorite 3 games. They have not been in this spot. I'm not entirely sure why they are booked as the favorite. I think it's a slight overreaction. And you look at the Cardinals. They got to Josh Allen twice last week, but last year, the 3rd least amount of sacks in the NFL with just 33. So if they were playing a different team with a more vaunted pass rush and the injury concerns for the Rams O-line, I might be a little bit more concerned. The Rams last year, 5-3-1 against the number as an underdog. I'll take the Rams outright to pick up win 1 of 2024.
Yeah, I'm with you there. That, too, is one of those games that feels like, yeah, I get the home field advantage, not what it once was, certainly in Arizona, but it certainly does feel like it's a game the Rams will bounce back in with Stafford and McVay. They'll figure it out against a very porous defense there, Ben.
So now let's go our favorite under of the weekend. Kudos to you, my friend. The bravado you must have to look at the lowest under of the weekend of 36.5 and say, not too high. We're going under in Mile High, the Broncos and the Steelers. How come, Joe?
Because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I sat here last Friday and told you, guys, the Tomlin record as the head coach of the Steelers on the road is ridiculous. It's now 52-20-2 to the under in all regular season road games since 2015. And they have gone under the score by a total of 3.5 points a game. If it ain't broke, I ain't fixing it, Ben. The Steelers, and especially with who's calling plays for them now with Arthur Smith, there's no airing out in this game. This is going to be a rock fight. They'd be lucky to get the 30.
Pittsburgh did win last week, 18-10, outright as a 4.5-point dog in Atlanta. A total in the low 40s, stayed well under. The Steelers won a football game by almost more than a score, but technically just a score because it was 8 points, without scoring a single touchdown. Just 6 field goals. Chris Boswell was great last week in the ATL, and the Broncos did end up scoring 20 points, but some of it late in a game that was heavily decided by Seattle. We continue the Big Six on the other side of the break on this Football Friday. Joe showing the stones on this Football Friday, looking at the lowest total of week number 2 and the Sunday slate and saying under in Mile High between the Broncos and the Steelers. Joe, there's many ways that I would like to invest in New York on the road in Nashville on Sunday. I understand logistically it is a very difficult start to the year for the Jets. On the road in Northern California against the San Francisco 49ers, back home for a few days, then right out to Nashville on a shorter week. But at least on paper, and maybe I'll eat my words and Will Levis will make me eat crow on Monday. But as long as that guy's the quarterback for Tennessee, give me the Jets all day long. I'd lay the 3.5 with New York. I am not so concerned about Aaron Rodgers. I think the ground game picks up against Tennessee. It's the defense that I think has to make a statement. And if Will Levis is the starting quarterback for the Titans, then give me the Titans team total under 18.5. Tennessee was tied for the fifth worst scoring offense in the National Football League last year, one of 6 teams that averaged less than 18 points per game. I understand the Jets gave up 32 to San Francisco, and frankly, it could have been more as Jake Moody hit 6 field goals. Some of those could have been paid off with a touchdown. But I think the offense picks it up. And the Jets' defense was great last year with the weight of the world on its shoulders. I think the offense is better. Aaron Rodgers is better. Ground game and Breece Hall are better with the offensive line. Garrett Wilson, the guy on your screen, I would keep an eye on as well. 70.5, his receiving yards prop. Allen Lazard, 37.5. We know that Aaron likes the guys that he feels comfortable with. I like the Jets laying 3.5. I think New York gets their first win of the year, and I think they do so in rather dominant fashion. Tennessee under 18 and a hook.
Yeah, spot on here. This needs to be a dominating performance by the Jets defense, and I do think the motivation will be there to get it done. Big time.
Yeah, that is the way I look at it for the Titans and the Jets on Sunday. All right, alt line, you're going back to Green Bay. What's the play?
Yeah, and as you can see, we're correlating a lot of these, right? If we bet one, we might as well go for broke. And listen, with Malik Willis there, we have Green Bay as our Moneyline underdog. And for that to happen, it's not Malik Willis who's got to have the big game. It's got to be Josh Jacobs. And I don't think LaFleur is just going to ask Willis to have this unbelievable game here of dropping back and throwing 50 times. I think anytime they get the ball in the red zone, I think Josh Jacobs is the guy that's going to get opportunities here. And listen, the Colts defense, not great by any stretch. And I do think that he'll have an opportunity here to get not just one running the ball, but probably one catching the ball out of the backfield as well. So 2 or more touchdowns for Josh Jacobs for me in this one in Green Bay.
Plus 460. That is the number, and I absolutely love the look. Again, I kind of agree with you that Green Bay seems to be that field goal underdog that can prevail on Sunday. The line should be more from the drop-off to Jordan Love to Malik Willis, and it's not. That should say something, but because of Josh Jacobs, that's how Green Bay keeps this game close and maybe wins outright. I'm going alt line, Browns, Jags, over 46.5. The total is 41 and a hook, and if you looked at last week in the quarterback play between Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence, you're probably thinking I'm a little bit crazy. Both offenses put up only 17 points. Deshaun Watson was absolutely abysmal, as he has been in the 12 starts he has made for the Browns. But the main focus, Joe, is on Jacksonville. The Jaguars scored all 17 of their points in the opening half. Then in the second half, the offense stalled out. Miami blanked them with a couple of long drives, and there was a fumble from Travis Etienne in the red zone inside the Dolphins' 15-yard line that really stifled what Jacksonville was trying to do. One of the reasons I go over alt line here is because the Browns last week gave up 33 points, 33-17 against the Cowboys. Total was 42.5, right around this number. It skied over with 50 combined points. The Browns have often played in games, the last 2 seasons now, start from 2023 to where we are at this moment, where the total has been just simply too low. The Browns last year, the highest over percentage in the National Football League, 12 of 18 games over. Not because they were putting up 50 points each and every week and they were going over totals of 48, 49, 50 and a hook. The numbers were so low because of how bad the quarterback play was, or at least the expectation for what Joe Flacco would be able to do. And they still found their way over. I think both offenses are better. I think we get a lot of points on Sunday, at least worth a sprinkle. And by the way, Joe, the Browns not only the highest over percentage in the NFL a year ago, over in all 9 of the games they played away from Cleveland a season ago. Now let's go to your favorite yardage prop of the weekend. I really like this look, Joe, for what is the marquee matchup in that Sunday afternoon time slot in Kansas City. Chiefs, Bengals, what's the play?
Again, another correlating shot here of a game that we talked about earlier with the Bengals taking on Kansas City. And I do like the Bengals in that game. And I also like Joe Burrow going over. His passing prop number 228.5 is what I think it was we saw. He was absolutely miserable in game 1, but not because he couldn't throw the ball and not because of a wrist. It's because they had 8 total possessions in the game. 8. And 2 of those 8 drives ended in ridiculous turnovers that should never have happened. Otherwise, we're having a different discussion about this Bengals team. Yeah, give me a big bounce back effort here with Burrow. T. Higgins probably not playing, but you're going to have Chase. You got Boyd. You got more than enough for him to be able to get over this number.
48 plays. That's it. Just 48 offensive snaps for Cincinnati last week. 29 attempts from Joe Burrow, 21 completions. Was sacked 3 times. So not a lot on the ground either for Zach Moss in his Bengals debut. Let Chase Brown go out there and eat, please, for the Bengals moving forward. But I like the bounce back for both the Bengals and Burrow in this Week 2 game, and a monumental one in Arrowhead against Kansas City. I'll give you my favorite yardage prop, and we'll combine for that 2-leg, 6-point teaser that failed Week 1, but will not in Week 2. That's next here on the Early Line. We continue our pick 6 for the Sunday slate in week number 2 in the National Football League. You gave your favorite yardage prop, Joe to Joe. That's Burrow going over 228.5 in terms of his passing yards on Sunday in Kansas City. I go to K.Dobbins. The Chargers on the road in Carolina. Boy, the Panthers are bad. But when you look at the Bolts, last week K.Dobbins, as you and Blewett were on Raineri, over his rushing yards prop. He had 10 carries against the Raiders, was explosive, 135 yards, and a touchdown. Am I a little bit late to the game? I don't believe so, for 2 reasons. Despite Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman say that they're going to go with the hot hand, so technically that could be Gus Edwards, I think K.Dobbins has emerged as the lead back. And I still very much stress this, although Justin Herbert is there. Harbaugh and Roman, who did this in San Francisco, and Roman did it with Jim's brother John in Baltimore, and Jim continued the philosophy in Ann Arbor. They are going to establish the run. They want to take the onus off of Justin Herbert, who has had to do so much for this Chargers organization in the first 4 years of his NFL career, now in a year number 5. They are going to run the football, so I think the number is slightly light on K.Dobbins, 55.5. And oh, by the way, Carolina allowed 180 yards rushing last week against New Orleans. They were the 10th worst rushing defense in all the NFL last season. And as Mike Blewett said, and it should be stressed, Derek Brown, one of the best interior defensive linemen in the National Football League, a little bit overshadowed because he plays in Carolina, is now out for the remainder of this season. Another big blow for the Panthers to contend with.
Yeah, it's but ultimately it's going to come down to whether or not they can figure out what to do with their number 1 draft pick, their quarterback here. If they can't get Bryce Young to get in any rhythm whatsoever, I don't care who you have on. You can have 16 guys on defense. It's still not going to matter for Carolina.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, right? Because now you look at the Panthers, who have been an underdog in all 18 games dating back to the start of last year. Bryce Young has started 17 of them. They are 4-12-2 against the number as a dog. Bryce Young last week was atrocious. 13 of 30 for less than 150. I don't even know. It was less than 200. He has thrown for less than 200 yards in 10 of the last 11 games the Panthers have played. Only over 300, which was his only time over 250 against Green Bay, Week 17. I mean, it's bad, man. It's bad. I kind of was optimistic it would change at least slightly for Carolina. Not an 8 or 9 win football team, but maybe just 6. I don't know if that's going to be the case. Let's combine for our 2-leg 6-point teaser. It missed last week. That's on me. I hope to hold up my end of the bargain this week, but Joe, you start.
So, again, another correlated spot here, Ben, but I'm going to go back to Mile High. And while I told you guys, I love the simple fact that the unders in that trend with Tomlin and the Steelers have on the road has been tremendously profitable. But do you know what other trend we can always count on when it comes to Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, Ben? It's the simple fact that they play much better against good teams, division games, and after a loss. You know what doesn't apply in this game? Any of those things. You know what else applies? Is how terrible Tomlin and the Steelers have been against teams they should beat, especially in non-division games, which is exactly what we have here. I have no problem teasing the Broncos up to 8.5 in such a low total game, knowing that this is usually where the Steelers have a letdown game.
Yep, the Pittsburgh Steelers last year as a favorite, not bad. But again, when you look at what Pittsburgh has done, better as a dog than they are as the favored side. They will be a slight favorite in Denver. The Broncos last year as an underdog, just 7-8 against the numbers. So as it stands, Joe, you go Denver up to 8.5. It makes a ton of sense through 2 key numbers in a game that features the lowest total of the weekend. I bring the Cowboys down through 3, make it a pick against New Orleans. I think Dallas wins the game outright. I actually think they cover the overall spread. I think we're a little bit hyped up on the Saints after the thrashing of Carolina. Give me Dallas to start 2-0 and look pretty good at home in the debut at the Star. Those are the pick sixes. That's the 2-leg 6-point teaser. He is Joe Raineri. I am Ben Stevens. We'll see you all tomorrow on a college football Saturday on SportsGrid. The early line returns on Monday. Have a great weekend.